but we also have our own way, secretive way of spice-upping up and making sure that these women are bathing as healthy as they can. End up finding that ngwana o batin o kakele siswini, and then they drink that water with meconium, and iba a different case, bana ba end up at the ICU.
How is a man expected to operate fully in his position if he was not even there during the pregnancy?
Thokozani, I am Paul Wabadimu, the advocate of Idlozi, and I welcome you once again to Thokoza Gogo podcast, episode 3. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave your comments down below. Do not forget to also sign the petition because we are still on a fight for justice for Kwekwe. So let us do the right thing and come together and sign the petition. It's so heartbreaking that we have to actually sign a petition for such a young girl to get justice. But let's do this for all the Kwekwes out there. We know as women, as parents in this day and age, how tricky it can be. So let's hold hands together and we pray for justice for Kwekwe. Thokozani. On a lighter note, I'm so excited about today's episode. I think I'm excited about every episode, but today's episode, I think we have 2 guests on the show. So they are ladies that have got signed contracts with allowing kids into our world, or rather spirit child. So I'm excited. Thokozani Makgolo.
Thokozani.
How are you? I mean, like, you know what I mean? It's fresh energy, beautiful energy. But let me allow you to introduce yourself. I'll start on my far left. Gogo.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Thokoza Gogo. This is Homozo Moremi, also known as Makgolo Batho, the traditional doula, the mother of nation. Ke ena nkgono o thusang ka bana le baimana.
Gogo.
Thokozani.
Thokoz.
My name is Kefi. I'm officially known as Mabutsezi.
Okay.
I'm passionate about all things postpartum, Indigenous postpartum care. I am an advocate for rest and nourishment during postpartum, and also integrating ancient practices for the modern woman.
That's beautiful. You 2 ladies are such a powerhouse because we need women like you, especially in our healing space in this day and age. But I'll just open the conversation with this question. What role do you play when it comes to the healing space? I hear that, okay, I am this and that, but there's someone watching at home and hearing all these huge, nice terms. But let us give them a bit of context, as in, what do you do in plain, simple English?
Okay, so as the doula is that woman that is normally available for moms that are pregnant after giving birth. I think in the long time ago, we used to have our grannies, our mothers looking after women after giving birth during pregnancy. Pregnancy, they will be like governing you, wear this, eat this, don't go there, come here. But now we have the new terms, it's called doula. But as the new women, the millennial women. So we are now saying we are going to be doing this in a modern way, but we also going to include our traditional way and cultural way of doing things. So when women are pregnant, as much as we see what they are showing us, what they are teaching us, but we want to go back to what our grandmothers used to do, what used to work, best practices of how to take care of yourself during pregnancy, what to eat, when you go to the doctor. That doesn't mean if you're going to be doing your pregnancy culturally, traditionally, indigenous, you shouldn't be going to your doctors, gynaes. We still work together with them because there are things that we can do that they cannot do. But we also have our own way, secretive way of spice-upping up and making sure that these women are bathing as healthy as they can.
Talking about spice. I love that. So in spicing up, Gogo, just to just ask a question around what you said, before I come to you, Gogo. You spoke about being a doula, but you have I'll use the word branded yourself as a
Yes.
traditional doula,
Yes, yes.
Makgolo wa Batho.
Yes.
What is the difference between you and Kefi, who's a doula?
Okay, Kefi and I went to the same training.
Okay.
We shared the same theory.
All right.
We probably were exposed to the same training in hospitals.
Okay.
However, with me, I then went back to say, how was it done before we knew about this? How was it done before we had hospitals? How were women bathing? Not that I would do it by myself. I will still need the hospitals. But I went back to say, traditionally, culturally, how was it done? I want to incorporate those into my doula the same way Keith is doing it. But that is just a way of putting myself out there and also assisting those women that could be maybe not aware of what me and Kathy went to training for, but culturally I'm accessible. Traditionally, I'm accessible. You can come to me. So this means massaging those women, but not in the beauty parlor or those spa.
Okay.
Yes, like
Alright.
we're doing it more in the
Kasi,
or
okay.
residule.
That's
Like
beautiful.
yes.
That's beautiful.
And
Gogo?
those, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Gogo, is there a difference between you and a midwife?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From a biomedical perspective,
Yeah.
yes, there's a difference between the role of a doula
Okay.
and a midwife, because the midwife, they do the clinical work, right? And as a modern doula, modern doulas are trained to work under clinical settings. However, it's the hands-off approach where you do not perform those clinical duties. But as a spiritual doula, however, we do have a history of traditional birth attendants
Okay.
in Africa and in our country. And part of my advocacy work has been trying to merge the two.
Oh, wow.
Because of in villages in rural South Africa, in the marginalized communities, they depend on, childbearing is dependent on traditional birth attendants being present. So the traditional birth attendant will help deliver the baby. They know the processes, and also they start from the beginning, which is the spirituality of childbirth. They are familiar with the rituals that take place in the family home, and also because they've established a relationship during the prenatal period.
Oh, wow.
So basically, in simple terms, we've given it being wangena ko loksheni. There's a term ya gore ke bo ba re fa maina ba re ke meolo ke tsamang ko yena during my pregnancy, and that is doing
Mama
it.
ngimhambayo.
Mama ngimhambayo, because and re gola vele bo mama simhambayo baba, like umuntu okutholisa umntwana, there are always this old magogos in the community, but the way spirituality has evolved with time, we are seeing the faces becoming younger and younger.
Yes.
My question around that is, honali a background in your families around the calling of the doula space? Is there something we can trace back? Or smangmangi? Is there something like that, or you had to go undergo a training of some sort? I just want to understand the spiritual side of that when we touch on that.
Okay, can I answer that? Okay. I come from a lineage of healers.
Okay.
And I think with every season, with every generation, the spirituality or the healing gets redefined, the way we do things. And I come from a background where I grew up watching my grandmother, her sisters, each of them doing this work differently, right? And they've gone through their different phases, their different training. And that is why when I got this opportunity to do doula work, I thought, hey, I'm running away from this. So let me rather do it this way, because of then it was a reconnection of my calling and my purpose and my lineage. And me doing this work, it's more spiritual than anything else, because then it just I've become one with my ancestors.
Wow.
And that is why you'd find that if you go back, children, young ladies will say to you, my mom was a nurse. I come from a background where my mom is from a clinical background. However, I've seen how those gifts have woven themselves in the different services. So doula work really just allows African women to be able to be realigned with their callings. And that is why you'd find some questions like, why is she flourishing in the space? I'm flourishing in the space because it is my true essence, is my calling.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
You know, so the training was just certification to enter into public spaces. However, that is why you asked the question before that what is spiritual about the work that we're doing. You know, there is the spirituality of childbirth. Also during pregnancy, a woman goes through a lot of dimensions that we can only speak in an African language, in a language that only an African person can understand. You know, from instance, in my culture, they'll say when you are pregnant, the reason why we go to Mama Ol is because to make sure that you know, find out who this baby is, find out if this pregnancy, it is, you know, the journey. And also one of the interesting things is it's that kind of the pregnancy. I'd actually like to share my own experience where when I was pregnant at 19 and all the cultural things that needed to be observed were against what I was going through. So my then boyfriend's family not acknowledging my pregnancy meant that there's certain processes I needed to go through to ensure that I'm healing and I've healed in order for me not to pass this hurt to my child. That is doulaing. That is the Western version is offering emotional support, the reassurance. And I think for me, the traditional birth attendants, the traditional doulas that were in my space, which were then my grandmothers, they knew exactly what step to take next. And they knew that because sorry, you know, so they needed to make sure that my child and I are covered, right? And that the healing takes place before the birth and before this baby and me, before we meet. And for me, that is a traditional prenatal care that no Western concept can train me on. You know, it is our lived experiences.
That is beautiful, because I always reference and say that as a healer, you heal better from your own experience.
Absolutely.
And we walk through certain journeys so that we become better people and better healers at that. In context for me and for someone that's at home, I feel like having a doula is important when you're pregnant. If you're taking a pregnancy test today and you find out that I'm pregnant, you need a doula. You know, you play such a vital role. It's like you were there throughout the whole pregnancy, because we are in a time where you're pregnant and life happens. You end up facing a pregnancy alone, and we often are alone and we don't have the emotional support, the spiritual support. But Gogo, I want to ask a question around pregnancy. Like you said, you give massages and all these things. How true is it that umntwana uyakwazi ukuthi aboshwe esuswini or umama umntwana aboshwe, and what role do you play in that or in facilitating healing around that? Because I often hear that, for example, I'll give an example about me. There were things that with my first pregnancy, I didn't know about. But leading up to the pregnancy, there were things my grandmother was giving me. But with the experience that I experienced through having a doula myself, it was a total difference. So I just want you to elaborate on the healing aspect of umuntu o pregnant or osetshenziwe or nomuya setshenzwa in that context. Thank you.
And I think I would like to borrow from what Kifilo touched on ka dikhaba, which is like pregnancies that are denied, where baby daddy wants the DNA before you even give birth. And then in those instances, you'll find that maybe hona le motho o ratanang le partner how hona le dipuo, like there's talks. They wish that baby can die. And sometimes it's not even what people are wishing upon your pregnancy. Give me some idea how happy as a pregnant woman. There are places where you can't go, but I guess not everyone is willing to now talk about that there are things you can't wear. There are things you can eat. There are things you can't overly expose yourself. You will find that in corporate, in offices, we were brought up to say, you can't touch another woman's baby and talk to that baby and just embrace it like, play. No, we don't do that as African women. Or even share the date of when we are giving birth. So as re sidula re massager, it's very true that bakao bofa, it's very true that you can have maybe delayed birthing due to all those traditional spiritual things that moms can experience. So husidula, sometimes it helps. It might be uncomfortable, painful, maybe after the massage, maybe as the baby turns or as the baby finds the position. You might need to maybe drink certain herbs, certain teas to try and undo what has been done. Maybe take certain baths as well, bath salts, prayed over baths that women can go through. So it is true that you can end up going through either C-section or maybe having a baby that takes longer to come out during birth, whereby you end up finding that ngwana batin okakele siswini, and then they drink that water with meconium, and iba a different case, but never end up at the ICU necessarily because of the spirituality things that we can't see and maybe clarify what we're in hospitals. Yeah,
Life is spiritual.
yeah,
Yes.
Pregnancy is sensitive.
Very sensitive.
And you've touched on a lot of things. My mind is rushing with excitement because this is such a beautiful conversation. So for somebody who wants to conceive and has difficulty in conceiving, is there probably a certain role that you play as a doula? Yeah.
As Oskhomoto was just sharing, it's funny because I always say this to young women as well, to say, actually, look at the doula as the role of the grandmother. And there is that, battle between, the elderly and having to share their experiences and share the advice. And it's always hard. If a young woman will have to choose between a doula and their gran, they actually will end up choosing the doula. So that is why it's important as well as an African doula to be able to understand the role that you play in that family. Or in that woman's life, because you are also there to reawaken and also to implement all of these things gently that they will not accept from the elder. However, they will accept it from you. So we have actually learned to reconstruct the offerings. At first, that seemed very boring. Now you tell women belly binding is a thing now. But if a woman is back home in the rural areas and their grand says, they're like, no, what is this? I don't want to do that. Recently, I shared about the benefit of sorghum porridge, for instance. And if it's funny...
sorghum porridge?
Yes.
Mabele.
Yes. Okay. You see how great that sounds, right? But you get home and and then you're like, no, I don't want this. But now there's a movement, there's a certain thing that's going around where people are actually exploring and embracing a certain thing. So we are, it's what a wonderful time to be alive, because of everything that was of the old has become new has become relevant. So also sharing about the spirituality, and you asked about infertility. The West has defined it as a fertility doula. I don't know if you've heard about a fertility doula.
Okay.
So this is a doula that will take you throughout the process as you're going through IVF. You know that process where a woman reaches out to you and says, I really, really want to have a baby. And because of doulas are well-versed and also they are aware of, we do a lot of recommendations. So we know the specialists in the space and we will take you through that process, which is something I think has not been explored a lot in South Africa. But when you look at it from an African context, this is the woman that you will go to and have the herbs. But before herbs and before the physical body work, the spirituality of the infertility has to be consulted. It has to be established as to what is causing this stagnation because of blocking of tubes, blocking of the uterus. It's not only kabuloi. Some of the issues are generational curses, and you need to understand that infertility is also a spiritual attack. And that is why I always say healers cannot be quick to give solutions. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You have to consult with this family. You have to consult. You have to understand the history and actually understand as to the core of the problem.
Yes.
And also request ngwana wa kopiwa, nna bana ba ka ke ba kgopetse. Bana ba kopiwa, you have to, you know, we don't have, especially as healers, we might all agree here, gore ntho tsa rona ha di tsamaye like everybody else's. Some of us have to ask for every single thing. And same as childbearing. And young women need to understand that. You need to understand that the phases. You need to understand, where am I right now? What are they saying? Where are we? We rush to ask for jobs and prosperity, but we don't understand the spirituality of having a child.
And just to add on to hukopa ngwana, this is why rena le bana ba ba bitsang bo ko rapetse. And then hona le bao be le ba, the mother went through something. So the names are always behind, like Bumpo. We don't know what gift your parents were expecting, those kind of things. Yes. So that spirituality ki add on to what Kefi is saying. So the process of trying to conceive ka setso, Leona asi chop. We need to find the root cause. And I always say to the people that assist her, for me to be able to do this, I need access to your ancestors. I need them to work with my ancestors to assist you. Then you'll find out Mutwata, then they come back. Oh, Coco, I had a dream. This and this was coming out of my womb. And after some time, they come back. Coco, I had a dream. My granny came and gave me the baby. That's when I know the job is done. That's how spiritual it is. They will have to access your body, do the cleansing with the help, obviously, with the herbs, the cleansing that you are doing with us, but they're going to have to come and now grant that baby. Even maybe sometimes they give them the names. I'm pregnant. This is the name. I already know. So the spirituality around pregnancy, it's a big deal, and people don't want to talk about it.
It's a big deal, Gogo. It's a very big deal. So when I was doing my research on around doulas and all that, I'm more invested in the spiritual side because I believe life is spiritual. And for a child to happen, it's always an agreement in the spirit, you know. And what happens in a case of somebody's pregnant? And because I believe that when a woman falls pregnant, the man is also pregnant. And in our societies, it's not spoken about enough that men are properly prepared for pregnancy. We are not understanding that when a woman is pregnant, they vibrate at their highest. And if you as a man are not matching up to that, that's why uthola kugcwele women with kids without men. So do you offer some form of counseling around that to fathers or couples, or when you see that in that period, do you sometimes step in as a doula and facilitate some form of therapy and healing between the mom and the dad around that time?
Kifilo had an interview with Radio 2000, and I had a question where they were asking about the fathers, that he was saying, okay, I'm hands-on with the pregnancy. Am I a father doula?
Oh, be tonight.
And I know it was a joke at that moment because he didn't think there was something like that, a birthing companion. But it doesn't just happen during birth. And I think most of our partners, our husband, our boyfriends, they struggle a lot with us women when we get pregnant because they're thinking, what do I do with you? Where do I step in? We are super, you are moody. They don't understand that your body is going through changes. You were not even asking for the changes to happen. So the father, it's only fair that the father can equip themselves with knowledge. Google, find a doula, ask, how can I best support my partner? Because as they go up and down with the emotions, the changes, struggling with your body changing, complexion is changing, change of taste buds, everything is changing. As a partner, as a man, you can only just try to see where you can meet them halfway, and maybe find them some online sessions that we do with Kefi, whereby they can join other women online. Nice. We do those antenatal classes so that your partner is not alone, because to be honest, not everyone will sit with you, allow you to talk about your pregnancy 24/7. How about join a group and have other women and talk about it like all day long? So I think our partners needs to go out and find those support for their partners and also learn, how can I come in? If she's angry, she's not angry with me. If she doesn't want to talk, it's not about me.
Yeah.
Don't walk away from her when she needs you the most. Rather find her because maybe you don't have family members that can step in after birth to look after the baby. That's when you do the job. Look for someone to massage her, look for someone to come and cook and prepare all those things during pregnancy so that you don't feel like, okay, this is too much, I can't do it. So fathers, they run away before time. They miss out on a lot of things.
And it's sad to see this, especially in our communities, because na mahua ke bona go le thabo, we are pregnant, ko sepetlele, they are there,
And they are holding each other.
Rona awa, Jabu Ashi, ke mo gcine 2027. It is wild. And I think men, we need to have this conversation more with men because they are the seed planters, to be quite honest. Now, when the seed is starting to, I can't deal with this. And you look at them like, my guy, you are here and I'm here and what is happening? But in the case of family dynamics, relationships, there's also the part of stress in a pregnancy, depression, and all those things. And some women experience stillbirths, miscarriages, all those things. And if probably I'm watching and I'm saying, what's working? I always face miscarriages, or I just had a miscarriages, or kibilele stillborn, or one of those things. I just want to get some answers. Can you guys step in and fix something there? Because it's a trauma. I can imagine giving birth and going through depression. What more giving or not actually reaching that peak? So I just want to know, la fitla mo, la tsenella, as you dealing with the spirits.
So many things. My mind is going wild.
Right?
Like I've got all these answers from an African perspective. But I'll say this to you first to answer your question about, do we do this? Are we there? How can we help? The role of a doula, it's so broad. And we've got different types of doulas.
Okay.
I do not specialize as a bereavement doula.
Okay.
There are bereavement doulas out there. And I think also, like I said, for me, it was easier to do this work because it was just a realignment of the work of my elders. So that's why, I found my niche in postpartum as Mabotsi.
Okay.
Right? And, like Jaga Makgolo Batho, she's very passionate about birth and the prenatal care as well. Not that I do not do it, but I do acknowledge that I'm not a specialist in that space.
Okay.
So going back to bereavement doulaing, they are trained to offer the support that a woman needs during that period. And one of the key things about doula work is that even though we are not professionals, medical professionals, however, we do have a network where we can refer women, right? But I'd like to answer from the place where we are sitting now as African women, and I want to answer tabaya men and how they are not part of our journey. Mpo, you need to understand, we are a nation of broken people. We are children and daughters of we come from broken families, and the family structure was affected. It was broken due to the apartheid system. We cannot have this conversation without going back to the drawing board. Okay? Imagine this. Where I come from, every corner, I remember this vividly. Like every corner, there was a beer hall in the Northern Cape, in Kimberley. And that's the place where after the fathers or the grandfather, they come from working from the mine, the beers, they get off the bus, they go to the beer hall. Now tell me, how is a man expected to operate fully in his position if he was not even there during the pregnancy? And also, apartheid had the tendency of secluding everyone, separating us. It broke the family structure apart. So imagine blacks only, and you are a woman, you are pregnant, and you're going through antenatal care. Obviously, it's you one-on-one with the superior, right, who does not even look like you. And your husband cannot be part of that. However, in their systems, that's why even their children now, they understand the concept of birth. They do not shy away from the concept of birth because it was part of their community. So with us, birth, that is why as a traditional doula, as an indigenous woman doing the space, it was cultural taboo for me, to be honest, to attend births and watch a man want to become part of the delivery of the baby. Because also there were things that our mothers and our grandmothers were protecting their sons from, right? And my grandmother used to make this funny comment, and I would ask her certain questions, and she's like, you guys are a generation, you want to know everything. So meaning that I think about it now, and I think about the rite of passage, is that there's a time for everything. Right now, I'm operating in this position as Mabutsetsi because the matriarch of the family has left, and the connection between birth and death. And you spoke about grief, a few weeks ago, and I thought to myself, how beautiful is this? This connection between, because I am able to stand in the gap I am in because of grief. Mama had to go for me
so
to
that
be
you
able,
could be.
so I can be, and that is why I'm literally just getting let us not blame our brothers or our partners. However, I'm not justifying the actions. It is things, we've inherited pain and trauma. And that is why doulas are here to be able to reintroduce our people to our ways. For me, I envision a time where even if a father is not there to watch me open as a woman and give birth, but their presence in the home set to be able to be there and recite the clan names as I've birthed and delivered my baby. That is important.
That is important.
That is just what is important for me, and like I'm saying, some things such as cultural taboos, and we're not willing to talk about it as doulas, because it means you are chasing your clients away.
Yeah.
If you say to them, because now sometimes I'm like, are you sure you want your, and then I have to remember.
Yes.
Yeah. I think also probably we sometimes reason from a place of being women and forget that there's something that happens to a man and a boy child and the transitions that happen. And as a boy mom, I'm looking at life very differently. And I don't want to not have them be knowledgeable in all these spaces because I want them to be different men, if anything. And when the partners are grumpy and I want them to understand that, look, she's going through a lot of time. Just give her the pickles, okay? So, Gogo, I want to understand something. People normally opt for gynecologists if they afford. But what happens to Mpho who can't afford a gynecologist and is stuck with our government antenatal care, right? And we know that it's not the nicest. First of all, the treatment there, they don't treat you nice. They don't care that you're pregnant. It's not sanitized. Even the birthing experience is traumatic. And there's multiple women I've come across that have said that, look, if it wasn't for this hospital, I think I would have been a different person. But they ruined me, and I don't think I want to give birth again. And it sort of poses a question mark. Do we have rights as pregnant women? And are women in these spaces so desensitized to the point that because I'm pregnant, I'm giving birth, vula, and all of these things? It's a very traumatic experience, especially if you don't know what's happening. With my first birth, I didn't know what was happening. But I can imagine there was a lot of things. It's only with my second birth that it made sense. I know what to expect. There was a doula, and the situation was different. So your role between Mpho, who is a gynecologist, and Mpho, who can't afford a gynecologist, do you step in both those spaces as equally and effectively? Yes. And how far do you go for that person to just paint a picture so that they know that if I get a doula, this is what I'm expecting, that my birthing, my pregnancy is a little bit more better?
Thank you for that beautiful question, because now people don't actually know. Ha ke batla ho bua hampe in terms of the gynaes and the midwives, but we find that most moms now, they now go even to also check the gynaes. They would even ask us, do you know a gynae in Park Lane? Do you know a midwife in Parkland, but they also want to check the reviews. So women are now wiser. Like the same way they're looking for the doulas, they're also doing the reviews on the doctors because they are scared of the stories they hear in hospitals, because now they've now realized that obstetric violence is also available in private hospitals, not only in public. It's not only, so imagine paying 50,000
painful.
in
I remember you
private.
said this,
Yeah, and then you're
yeah.
not being treated nice. So they now go and check reviews. But with having a midwife and a gynae, I still come in as a doula. She still come in as a doula to support the moms during labor, because there are gaps between the check-ins or checkups for the midwives and doctors where the mom will be left alone, either in public or in private. In private, you'll have your own room. They will leave you there, check you after every 2 hours. They will give you a bell, ring here when you need anything. They're not, yes, they're not going to sit with you. They have other patients to check. So doulas, when they come in, that's where we hold the space while the gynae and the midwives are still doing the rounds. And if there's anything that is not okay, I can quickly run and fetch them and say, hey, I think there's something that I don't understand there. Please come. So even if I understand what's happening, I'll still need them to oversee what I'm looking at. Yeah. Yeah.
And cesarean, natural birth?
Yes. So even with the cesarean as well, because remember when we go into hospital, we don't go with the intentions of C-section unless if that's what you chose with your gynae, that I'm going to do C-section. But with the C-section, you get maybe mpo, choosing to do C-section, no partner, no one. As a doula, that's when I walk in, I hold the space again. I'm the partner. I'm going to be there playing the same role as the baby daddy will play when they were assisting you or being with you during the C-sections. So taking pictures of the baby, making sure that you are laughing, you're not concentrating on what they're doing behind the sheet, and just running around to observe and see what the baby is going on about.
And then, like, hey, Hosewa asentoya rona, and as black people, Mausigi should something is wrong. And even our parents instill that, and you get but we forget that our structures are not the same. The pregnancies are not the same. Sometimes the baby doesn't turn, and there's a lot of things that happen within that space. So can you just tell the viewers at home that cesarean is not maloyo? It's due to the pregnancy. Sometimes the baby's too big.
We don't choose.
Yeah,
like I said, we don't choose.
It's
like,
interesting that you actually mentioned that now, because April month, it is C-section awareness, International C-section Awareness Month. And I call C-section babies bana ba batlang ka rooftop.
Helicopter.
You know, rooftop. And like you say, you know, there is a misconception that a woman that has not delivered vaginally is not a woman enough. Yet we are built differently, we are created differently. We come from a different lineage, and sometimes that C-section saves a baby's life, not only from a medical perspective, but from a spiritual perspective as well. And also, you know, I've had this interesting conversation in the past where somebody said to me, sometimes the babies take their time because they just like, hey, you're not ready. Am I ready?
Yeah,
Have they planned for me? Have they prepared for me? Because now you are in a hospital setting and there's so much noise. There's so much trauma. It's just this noise, whereas birth is sacred. Also because of the disconnection between what is natural and what is medicalized, right? And sometimes some babies, you never know. And also understanding that that is why, you know, Makgolo will always say, you must meditate with your baby. You must connect with your baby. There's nothing a hippie about that. It's also an African thing.
It's just that how they put it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is why I say I always take it hands-on when I've got a modern mom, a young mom. And I introduce these things just with a different naming convention. And it's amazing how you watch people embrace something because of the language or the words. But I'm just like the affirmations, still birth affirmations. In the times of in ancient times, when a woman is struggling and a woman is, You know, it's a matter of life and death. The drumming, the drumming, the music, the drumming to release the baby, and listening to the voices of the elderly women in the birthing room, and that child will remember and will be called into the space.
Yes.
So can you see the connection? Can you see? So we need to stop demonizing everything, right? And that is why we are here to really. I always tell we are here to reintroduce people to. We are bringing them back to themselves. That's all we do. That's all we are here to do. Because of the time has come for people to understand, you know, and put the pieces of the puzzle together. So you've mentioned also about how, you know, like we've spoken about the misconception around C-section births, and how you feel that the viewers out there should really embrace that, you know, and connecting the mental. The support that a woman needs after a C-section is not only physically, but a postpartum depression. Women actually beat themselves up.
I was about to get to that about postpartum.
About the way they've given birth, because also men are having conversations about things that have got to do with women and not them. So your partner will come and stress you about you having a certain birth because of whoever's a wife or girlfriend gave birth naturally.
So I think probably also the context, she gave birth naturally and you gave birth via C-section. Yes. What is unnatural about C-section? Can't we just say she gave birth?
She gave birth. And you know, I saw something interesting recently when I was doing research about C-sections and the layers, the 7 layers.
Yes.
And when you connect the 7 layers.
It is 7 layers before the baby, actually. Yeah.
So that's a spiritual thing. And to really look down on a woman, imagine being opened up and this baby is yanked out of you. Because people think it's actually just this
the baby just sitting there.
No. And imagine the trauma that baby goes through and the mother. And here you are, judging a woman for giving birth that way, and yet you do not understand the opening that she went through.
It is painful.
It's very, very painful. And also the societal norms. There's this thing, how people like a natural C-section, like bomekaba. So already just shows you how society just stigmatizes around women and body shaming. There's body shaming. Because I do a lot of postpartum work, the first thing that moms ask me, like 2-3 days, here I am trying to make sure that you connect with your baby. So the pressure.
You know, when you're saying that, I was having that conversation at home with, I think after giving birth, and I was like, I need to start binding because, but I sat down with self and I was like, get it among, because my body's still recovering. Yes. And Khomoso taught me a very important thing, that your body takes a year, a full year to recover post-pregnancy.
Yes.
But in the midst of the recovery, Gogo, I want to ask, in terms of the postpartum state, we touched on that now, but I want us to get into the mental aspect. There is a lot of women that goes through postpartum depression. Some of them diagnosed or undiagnosed. And they don't know what is postpartum depression. So can we just, in the short time we have, can we touch on that? What is postpartum depression and how to get help, and how do you step in as a postpartum?
There's so many signs that you will see as a companion or as a postpartum doula. Then you realize that mom is struggling. There are serious cases of moms really having bad thoughts towards their baby. Why did I have this baby? The disconnection. I wish my baby wasn't born this way, or I cannot afford this meal. Nutrition also causes a lot of imbalance. Malnutrition causes a big imbalance postpartum, and hence where I come from, food is mandatory. When you are pregnant, this is what so also how society and also culture isolates a woman. Certain cultural practices, they isolate a woman from having communication with the outside world, right? And And that's also the battle that I have to say. I advocate for rest. However, I do not say I advocate for confinement. However, I do not say seclude this woman from the world. However, when you look at it, a lot of us that were like my grandmother did with me, I did not have the type of stresses because I was not aware of the societal expectations around me. I was protected. So there's the pros and cons. So there's a lot of, signs and symptoms that one can look out for, it's just feeling emotional. You just want to start crying, just randomly. You just want to cry. And then also culture dictates. And also then you also remember, I'm not allowed to do this. So the do's and the don'ts. But there are women that suffer from clinical depression, which is something that needs to be assessed by a clinician, by a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist, right? And there is also the depression, depression, a mom is just, the mother load, it's a lot. I can't carry this on my own. Burnout, I am tired, I'm exhausted. And you just start having these weird thoughts to say, actually, I didn't want this pregnancy. Or also having to go back to work. And also it's about finances. Because some women are like, because of this child, I cannot afford to look after the others. And then you just see how we come from a society where a mom will be picking on this certain child because of what was happening around the birth and the pregnancy of that child. So postpartum depression has got a different face in different communities, in different families, with different women. And that's why we encourage, for me personally, with my clients, birth debriefing. Because also we need to debrief your birth.
Go back and just talk about it. And
what happened?
And just to add on to the postpartum, sometimes it starts during pregnancy. You will find some women and that man is like, no.
Rejecting.
And how rejected, that's when you're like, what did I do? I'm pregnant, I want him. And Hona, no, he's like nowhere to be found. That's when it starts building up. By the time you give birth, it was long time done. And when I know depression, and you don't even know when it started.
But then that is why it's also beneficial for women to have a doula during pregnancy.
Yes.
Because then you go to see your gynecologist or oya ku clinicing. Bo sister yes ba na le scope tsa gore ba bone gore okay di science kitse, but it's the queue is long.
Yeah.
I don't have time to spend
And
more
they're
time
short-staffed.
with this.
We
And they're
mustn't
short-staffed,
mention, yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
having a doula, it's the birth for me, it's the companionship during
Yeah.
pregnancy, to be able to debrief and just unpack and
the
unpack
stages,
so that
yeah.
we prepare. It's about mindfulness during pregnancy as well. So there's this thing that where women think, no, I need a doula at last minute.
Yeah.
No. It will benefit you to have a doula
As soon as possible.
as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Oh, that is something very important you spoke about, because I've had clients, you find that umama nomntwana abazwani and they come endumbeni, and when you dig deep into the situation, umntwana is like, Gogo, my mom doesn't want me. And when you dig deep, it started around pregnancy.
Yes.
It started around pregnancy. And the mom now, you find they are breaking down that but because we are being told you're supposed to be strong, she takes all that pain, puts it in the bag, and starts bleeding on you as you grow. I mean, you guys play such an important role for me. When I think I'm pregnant, I know I call Makgolo Batho. I know that as soon as I'm done with her, I'm coming to you. So it's like, you guys, it's a beautiful space. Does the medical space open its doors widely for you? Does it let you in with big arms like, come, we are ready for you? Or do you have to fight your way in there? Because you are literally providing premium care at its best, right? And I'm getting from you what I'm getting from these spaces, but put in one person, just compiled with love. You know what I mean? So do the medical spaces open the doors for you? Medical aids, all of that, hospitals? How is that for you?
So Kefi and I were trained by the same midwife, senior
Okay.
midwife. So she's
Okay.
a lecturer at VETS
Yeah.
for the midwives.
Yeah.
We were trained by the same person, but
Yeah.
she's from Pretoria. I'm from the south.
Okay.
Before the universe brought us together, because we trained also different years,
Okay.
I didn't know that she was doing the work that side and I was doing the work this side. I mean, in terms of entering and accessing hospitals.
Okay.
So when we leave the training, we were given, okay, this is your membership number, go pay insurance, go and register Discovery, Momentum, Fed Health, all those. So you know you're going to be dealing with private hospitals. Then you have moms that are going to public. They want you. But public is like, we are not sure where to place you. So we have Far East Rand where we trained. We have some clinic in Hillbros where we also did the training. So those are the kind of hospitals that will allow us. But in other public hospitals, we had to go knock. You can't necessarily kick, scream and shout because now you might be banned.
Okay.
But we had to go knock like hard. I was knocking this side. She was busy that side. Zabo Steve Biko Lena knocking. And when we came together, we more, like when we were doing research in different worlds and we just collided in
That's
the
beautiful.
struggle. Yeah. So we do have access in private hospitals, but it depends which ones as well. The process is once you know that you want a doula, you tell me you go to this hospital. I need to go and introduce myself to the unit manager, but there are hospitals that are now aware of us. I just go and I tell them I'm here from Po. They will tell you Po is in this room and room, so and so. There are hospitals like Far East. You also go, they already know this lady wearing pink, she's here for this.
Okay.
You don't have to explain yourself, but we are still knocking. We are still begging in other public, more especially public, because those women don't have medical aid, but they need us.
Yeah.
They
A
do need
lot.
us. Yes,
A
we're
lot.
not there to maybe
Steal people's jobs.
yes, and on maybe to take videos and see what they're doing wrong. We're just there to support moms. But if only we can get access so that we can support them when they're busy doing their work. We know they're short-staffed, and we just want to help.
You know, can I add on that to say, as much as one of the things that has just really been taking so much of my time, I realize that the more I'm fighting for access in public spaces, it is, I'm actually doing things the other way around. I'm supposed to be talking about community doula training programs. Because yes, tomorrow we can wake up and government says, you guys have got access in all the facilities. But then do we have enough doulas to feed those spaces? So that is why it's important to have these conversations to talk about doulas, the role that they do, and also just try and encourage a woman to look at this work that we are doing so that we can raise more doulas in the space to be able to infiltrate the system because already it's overcrowded. And the ratio, then we'll come to a point where doulas will have burnout because of they cannot overextend themselves. So Mpo, the conversation that we're supposed to be having right now is talking about providing doula training that is culturally competent, where a woman with a calling can be able to get into the space, to be able to access training, to have a woman, imagine having a woman who knows how to deliver a baby, but because of she's not clinically trained, having that woman's skills be recognized as prior learning, having Mpo say, I do a lot of prenatals, I do see a lot of pregnant women, how do you integrate my services into the doula space? So that's what we need in order for us to be able to maximize on the on access to facilities. So we are struggling, but we will get there.
Ladies, how does one get in contact with you if I'm looking to access your services? You can look to your camera and talk to your people.
Very like I feel like this interview.
I
Okay,
thought we only started.
Makgolo Batho is on TikTok, Instagram. Makgolo Batho the doula, and my number for those that wants to send me a WhatsApp, it's 082-225-1642.
Yo, happy Makgolo ke gona nkenya mo dilong tsa TikTok. So I've recently just joined TikTok.
Yeah.
So but I go as Mabutsetse the doula. But on Instagram and Facebook, I go by Kefi the Doula.
Okay.
And also, like we mentioned, we do have an organization called Doulas for South Africa. So if women want to reach out for doulas, different type of doulas that they connect with, they can also have access there. But however, so my WhatsApp number is 081 036 0146. And yes, that is where women can get hold of me.
Ladies, this is part 1.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward for us to having part 2. Time flies when you're definitely having a fruitful and wholesome conversation. And thank you so much for joining me. Viewers at home, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Thokoza Gogo with the doulas, of course. I will catch you on our next one, and we are sure to have them again. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel, leave your comments down below. Most of all, like this video and also follow me. I'm on Instagram and on TikTok. Thank you so much for watching this video. Do not forget that we are on April, which is Cesarean Awareness Month. So as a mother or as a mom, whoever you are, do not feel bad about being a cesarean mom. In fact, wear your scar with pride, because it is a badge of honor. And as a woman and as a mom, be proud of who you are. Don't let yourself go or let yourself down. Go through the phases and stages, and don't be afraid to open up and seek help should you need so. But search the services of doulas so that you are not alone in your pregnancies. I am Poverty with the Advocate of Ilozi, and I will see you same time, same place. Thokoza. Kindly note that the Love, Life and Grief Seminar has been moved to the 3rd of May 2025. Tickets are still available at 950 per person. This is an intimate spiritual event centered around grief and healing, so come ready for an experience of a lifetime. Reserve your seats on 079 816 0199, and looking forward to seeing you soon.